Hey, I'm Myra.
I'm Kale. And
I'm Shep.
Yeah, our special guest today is Shep. And what's up, Shep? How are you?
I'm good. I'm a little tired, but I'm doing well.
Hell yeah.
Thriving.
Yeah, welcome to our podcast. It's called Creative Muse.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with the term a muse or what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to share with us what your perception of that is?
Man, with a deep question right
Right.
away.
Yeah.
Right away.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
I don't know.
something
Kind of I don't know. You
ahead.
could be I would say artist is too general of a term, but somebody that follows their passion,
Yeah.
A passion point, because it's not necessarily art. It could be anything. You can really kind of go with that.
Hell yeah.
But it would just be a passion. Someone a follower of a passion.
I like
A
that.
follower of something, really, because you can follow yourself, or you could follow others and do that too.
Yeah. It could be just discipline.
Right.
A discipline.
Right.
Any discipline that's something that I really like that you touched on, the fact that it could be anything, because that's something we've talked about quite a bit.
Yeah.
Is that we don't want to limit our podcast to just interviewing artists, because we love artists. But we know that people, the music, like you said, it's not limited to just being creative. Do you want to talk about maybe the two different sides?
Yeah.
So we've been talking about this with just about everybody.
It's
that we
a more
interview.
disciplined side, and then your more creative side, and finding that balance.
Mm-hmm.
So the more disciplined part would be the actual physical doing of your work. I'm not gonna call it art, but it could be art.
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is that you're doing, and then there's the creative part. And so a lot of times people aren't happy because they don't get to with that creativity, it's more of a block, or they don't have the option to do that, because you go to your 9 to 5 and that's work, but where's the play? And then people get lost in what actual creativity is,
Right. Well, and creativity, just the way it is, a lot of times is chaotic, and it's intuition. It's intuition based, and it's very
Following your intuition.
Yeah, it's very much your instinct. You're just following the flow of something, whereas the whole structure and the discipline side of the idea of the muse is that that you have a process.
Right,
for doing
that
it.
part of you that just comes naturally. And you'll find that when you're you see a vision in your mind, you're okay, that's the creative part. This is what I want to do. And then it's
that's the
finding
more natural side,
finding the actual place to take the footage, or the place to take the shot, the exact angle.
It can be kind of finding the balance between the two, really, the creative process and the organized process.
Exactly.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Really freeing your mind from the what people view as normal, or what people view as painting is when you think of paintings, people think of if you sit somebody that doesn't paint down, and you're I paint something, they'll have a very structured way of doing it. They won't go freely. I mean, so finding that freedom of what you love, but also finding the structure to really keep on creating and keep on pushing yourself.
Well, and just be efficient.
Right.
It's finding ways to make a process, first of all, and then refine the process to the point that it is so fluid that you don't even have to think about it as second nature. So
yeah, there are so few artists that haven't done something thousands of times. That any artist you've heard of, that you've met, somebody that you think of as an artist,
successful artist for sure.
Right, for sure.
Yeah, they have done it a million times.
Yeah,
and there are always flukes. There's one-offs where people can make it with not much effort, but usually you don't see them follow up because they don't actually have the structure. They don't have the organized part of it. So
And there's something about having to do it time and time and time again that gives you that passion. That gives you that instead of it.
And it lets you try different things. It lets you do something differently, and then you find out, oh, that didn't work, or oh, that worked better, and then you refine.
Yeah.
I guess something that I know Myra brought up to me when it comes to the idea of the muse. You found a definition that talked about how the muse could be a person, it could be a place, it could just be
It could be an alter ego.
Yeah.
It could be just your inner
could
voice.
be something inside of you. Exactly. So
it could be another person.
it could
be,
yeah.
If I'm with
like
Kale, like my ideas just like flood. Like sometimes we just like, you know, like having a person that's going to give you that inspiration for
and
that
puts
creativity.
you in that
Right.
mode.
Yeah. And I think that's what's important about like doing this and talking about it is like being in a collaborative like environment, being like any idea is a great idea, you know?
Right.
Yeah. And just like the idea, well, I guess kind of going on from that, the idea of like getting people's perspective too, that's a huge drive for us, I think, to sit down with people is like, you know, like you were giving us perspective of you have a job, you know, where you're working a lot, and there are probably a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Like, it's awesome that you're working because you're making money or whatever. You're able to maybe like save for something or whatever it is. But then there are also people who that is like their nightmare, you know, to be locked into something like that. And so like being able to sit down and be like, okay, well, since you do have that creative side of you where you're doing photography and stuff, like, where does that put you? How do you feel? How does that make you feel, I guess, when you have to be traveling so much or whatever?
I definitely don't get as much of an opportunity to do that as I would like to.
Yeah.
I think some of that is like, you know, me finding my own time to do things. So I think that's partly on me.
Well, it's prioritization, ultimately.
Right,
It's
absolutely.
like
I think
taking pictures isn't necessarily always the top priority. Or
But
in a
sometimes
lot of
you
cases
can,
it
like,
isn't.
you can express your creativity, even if you're like on the go, like just even talking to people, like, or listening to podcasts and stuff like that.
Right.
Networking.
Like, because I think the more that we talk about like this kind of topic, like it's gonna crush those expectations that we set for ourselves in our minds, and we're gonna be like, oh, this is someone else's opinion, this is someone else's, and this is what I thought, and like now you have a whole new idea.
right, creativity in all forms is about keeping an open mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so I mean some of that's like just kind of learning as you go. So like with my photography right now, I've discovered that like kind of reignited that passion again recently, and I've been able to like go out and do some of those types of things just because I've had a little more time. Partially because I have had more time in general, but partially because I've just gotten used to the process at work, and I've just had a little more, you know, this is normality. I'm ready to step outside of that.
Right.
Where the last year or so of work was kind of just like a little hectic, where I was still learning a lot and still doing a lot of new things. So
Yeah.
like,
and so, what kind of photography do you like to do, or what's your style, or what do you like to capture?
I do like portraits a lot. Like I do definitely. It's fun seeing like people's reactions to the way that they can look when they're framed in the right light. Like I think pictures in general can be so unflattering. Like you open your selfie camera and you have 4 chins and like you just look silly. You know, the lighting's all weird and you look silly. But when you look at like any kind of like photo shoot or, you know, fashion shoot or like a boudoir shoot, you can
Boudoir?
I haven't shot.
You haven't?
I haven't
I
shot
did.
any.
I shot for my friend.
Not yet.
And it was
Not
fun.
yet. Yeah.
And I'm like open to
Right.
doing that.
And the like, did you notice like the boosting confidence like behind your friend, and like just the ability to see themselves in a different light when they have the right lighting and the right environment and the right comfortability level. They can kind of look at themselves, and you know, especially boudoir, you get the makeup and your hair done and everything like that. So like really, you know, then it can kind of, people can realize that like it's not all just
well, and like it gives them a different perspective of themselves.
Right.
Yeah. They're able to see themselves, like you were saying, in a different light, essentially. Right. And man, like just talking about that, like every time there's a photographer in Lincoln, his name is Kalen Drollinger, I think is how you say his last name. Sorry if I said your name wrong. But he does boudoir. Yeah, boudoir. And he's really good at it. Yeah, like his whole Instagram is like these beautiful models, very, very well photographed. Man, God damn it.
Go ahead.
So yeah, so I guess one thought that I have a lot is, man, that must take a ton of trust. Like that's such like he's he's a married guy, and he's like going out and shooting with these girls, and these girls have to trust him, to take the pictures and trust him with their bodies and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. There's
definitely a practice to the way that you can say things to that, to make people feel more comfortable.
Oh yeah,
but also
it's just about building trust,
right?
With somebody.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
I think another type of photography that's similar to boudoir to me and people being open, is like fantasy photography. You know what I mean? Like just doing just having a whole set, and then like whatever it be, like just
like wizards and
anything. Yeah,
that'd be cool.
And then like playing around with Photoshop and stuff. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Some people are like, no, I don't do Photoshop. I'm like,
right.
no, it's fine. Like it's a way to express yourself. Like
it's
artistic. I think one of the things about fashion and boudoir shoots that like I think is really cool is it doesn't necessarily, like you were saying about people seeing themselves in a different light. It doesn't necessarily affect them in like a bad way. It's like it's more like, hey, you see all these people in like Hollywood and Instagram and in professional photo shoots and in even amateur photo shoots where you look at them and you're like, man, that person's so attractive and I'm not, and
it makes you feel less than.
Right, it makes you feel less than, or like we're constantly comparing ourselves to others and things like that, even if we're not trying to. But when you do portrait shoots of really any kind, you can kind of get that like, especially when you do boudoir or where you do makeup and hair and stuff like that, you really like that person can realize that like, oh yeah, when I put a lot of effort into this, like really I'm not that different than that Instagram model or that, you know what I mean? Like we're all really pretty when we want to spend the time to make ourselves pretty, but like it also kind of frees you from that thought where you're like, okay, well I've been there, done that, but like kind of like the way I am, you know, like when I look normal.
I'm fine being comfortable and sitting on my couch and watching Netflix or whatever. Yeah.
It's a good way to like, I guess like
break
boost
down
self-esteem.
Yeah, it's a good way to bridge the gap or like break down the barrier of like models versus people. Yeah. Like it's just everybody's kind of the same, you know. Like again, everybody can look a certain type of way if you make them look a certain type of way.
Right. Yeah. Like bringing out the best in people. Basically.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
I think also like, I mean, just in any case, when you're doing a photography session, it's just so good to build that rapport and like it makes the shoot go way better.
Right.
You know?
That's like with anything though. Like
that's true.
It's definitely fun to like connect with people in that way too. And kind of see how people open up when you start to build the trust, when you start to get comfortable. You know, because people a lot of times when they start a photo shoot would, if you're not already intimately comfortable with them,
it's
like when you and I did a photo shoot, obviously like we knew each other pretty well. We're already pretty chill, but like when I've done photo shoots in the past with others, it's like there'll be kind of like a period of like, oh, I'm not sure I know you.
We should talk
like,
about
let's do that. But then you realize like as you build that comfortability and that trust, people start to open up, and it's really fun to see the different types of personality that people have when they've built that trust. Or
so how do you do that? How do you initiate the trust building between you and a client or you and a model?
Mostly dad jokes.
Hell yeah. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah, making people laugh, it's a good way to break the ice and make people.
It works with the ladies too. So
works with the men too.
Humor's
humor. Yeah, it's so universal and
right. Laughing especially laughing and just being wacky.
Oh,
one of my favorite things to do when doing photo shoots is give people like scenarios too, like like actions to do rather than like
cool,
like poses. I'm like
try running.
Try running towards me, or like walking this way, and then we can just do different things. And they're like, "Oh yeah, cool." Like, or
it kind of like gives them more stuff to do too.
Right.
And I think that one thing I like to do too is like once I take a picture that's similar to what I'm envisioning, I show it to them and be like, okay, but imagine it like this way, and like getting them involved in what I'm doing versus like having them wait to see everything at the end.
Yeah.
You know? Being like, hey, like, what do you think about here? Do you feel comfortable doing that? And
That's
they'll
cool.
open up and be like, yeah.
Yeah. I think, when you're starting out, it's kind of scary to like ask people questions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I'm speaking from the perspective of like, say like a DJ. When I'm at an event, it's good for me to continually check in with my couple and just be like, how are you guys doing? We got this event coming up.
What are some of your favorite like spaces to shoot in? Like you said, you don't really do studio too much, so more like outside.
Yeah, I
like
mean, I definitely
or
just like to kind of honestly like I think my favorite thing is like photo walks. I just like to kind of different. I like to really get other people's perspective on like what would be ideal for them too. So like once we get comfortable and kind of like build that trust a little bit, it's nice to like start to get creative with the person that you're shooting with too. And I'm like, oh, this would be fun to do. And then like if you find anything that you think would be really cool, and I've had a couple really good spots where like we were just walking around downtown or like in the middle of a park or something like that, and the person that I was shooting with was like, oh, that would look amazing, and it turns out like beautiful.
Yeah
like
they just
lights,
give you a
suggestion. I had a friend who we were walking downtown, and there was like the side of the building that had a fire escape that was completely covered in like leaves and stuff like that. So we just she like walked up the fire escape, and we just shot some shots from below the fire escape and like up on the fire escape.
Hell yeah!
And those are some of my favorite shots that I've ever taken. So
that's awesome.
It was, so just like photo walks, I think are like one of the most fun things. Just trying out different stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of serendipitous shit that happens.
Yeah. I liked it in that too.
Because people have their own level of creativity, and sometimes they don't, but a lot of times you get a lot of input from other people, and you can kind of build off of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you want to like branch out and do more like studio stuff, or?
You definitely do. I definitely want to. So I mean, that's the thing. Is I would still call myself definitely very amateur. I've done a little bit of studio work, and I would love to do more, just for the experience.
Yeah, me too.
Like more. I'd like to do more like planned, like magazine style or like editorial style work as well. Just to get that experience.
Yeah.
I've been doing some landscapes lately with traveling too, which are a lot of fun. A lot of time.
Can you bring your camera with you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I bring my backpack with my camera when I travel.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, landscapes are very time consuming. So I've had a couple places where I'm like, oh, it'd be great to get up on those mountains. But then it's like, well, we can't just get up there like any time of the day. You want like golden hour, or you want to go up during like first thing in the morning during sunrise. It's like, okay, well, I got to work at 7, so I guess I'll get up at like 5 and go over to catch the sunrise and then just drive over to work.
I've thought about doing that, but I just never do because I'm like, I don't want to go alone. So if you ever want to go,
there you go.
Definitely,
totally. That's I did want to talk about that awkward time that you were talking about, like at the beginning of a shoot. I've noticed it too. Like I even told Josh, I think when we shot together, I was like, yeah, there's always kind of that time at the beginning when you're just like kind of getting used to each other, because like Josh and I hadn't hung out outside of work, so doing a shoot together, like there was like a little bit of awkwardness at first. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you guys have anything to say about that or want to talk about it at all, but
yeah, I think just like the faster you dive into like separating from that awkwardness, from like just
telling dad jokes, like getting on the same page. I think I was gonna say, like, as a DJ, if I go out and say like dance, that gets people to want to come out and dance,
or having like, music while you're doing the shoot, like what I mean, like you're just taking pictures, you're not.
I think
something to like bond.
Yeah, well, I think being genuine too about who you are and kind of what you're into, and finding maybe a bonding thing, like asking people, what are you into? What else, what do you guys like to do? But being able to be genuine about who you are can definitely put people at ease. Like if you were to just show up at a wedding as a DJ and be like, all right, I'm gonna play some music. You guys should dance. Like they would be like, who is this guy?
I'm the boss.
But you're just like, hey, I'm Kale. Like I'm the DJ for the night, and you just kind of like introduce yourself, and
you're just friendly.
And you get into it, and you just like, so what do you guys like? Like.
And that's why it's nice to like meet with the people you're going to be working with beforehand.
Right.
Absolutely.
Before you do it.
Yeah. I've had a pretty good success with that too. Is just like being like, hey, let's grab a coffee, sit down and talk about it. Traveling wise, and you mentioned you've done like some landscapes and stuff like that. What is maybe one of your favorite places that you've been recently?
Well, I went to New York.
Nice.
Couple months ago. Well, about 2 months ago.
New York City?
Yeah, that'll be like the third time I've been to New York, fourth time I've been to New York.
I love it.
Yeah, it never gets old. There's just so much stuff to shoot there. It's like, so yeah, I mean, obviously there's just like, there's the typical stuff, like the Brooklyn Bridge shot from the street that everybody gets and stuff like that. So there's your typical stuff that you can always do, but there's always street photography style stuff. That's one of the things I think that I like to get into more as well. Like it's just like really getting that street photography and like finding some stories, I guess, in a photo that like that you can really tell.
Josh does such a great job.
Oh, Josh does amazing.
Yeah,
amazing work. Like just street photography.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's. I mean,
he's got a talent for that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that your shots are fucking amazing as well. I just see more of his because he posts a lot on Instagram. So, but I think he said he's maybe starting to maybe get into film now and start doing that more. I've seen a big trend with that. It seems like a lot of people are going to film, and he said something about
once someone feels like they've like at least mastered it a little bit in their mind.
Digital photography a little bit, yeah.
Like,
they want to
which
go
is
to film.
cool. I would, yeah.
Sometimes it's a good way to learn the other way around too. It's like a good, it's a good way to like start on film because there's no forgiveness. Yeah, they're like you have to find the shot because you got 24 of them or you got 20 of them. So you're very limited in what you can do creatively, so you have to be very particular about the shot that you're going to take. Whereas a lot of times now you can be very like, I think people get into digital photography and they're like, you get 11 frames per second rapid fire mode, and you're just like, okay, and you don't like you don't study the shot. But I mean, you can definitely learn a lot more from film, but you can also like Josh, you can kind of turn back around once you feel like you're comfortable with digital and really like get some really cool stuff with film, especially like medium format, older medium format cameras where you have like a lot of detail.
Oh damn, okay, I'd have to look into that. That sounds awesome. Well, and then I assume people just scan them in then.
Yeah, so medium format you can do. I mean, there's a lot of old medium format cameras that you can get for pretty cheap now.
Nice.
The medium format you can do like you can blow up like the size of a wall.
Damn.
Yeah. So I mean that's like
crazy, and you're getting a lot of detail at the same time.
A lot of dynamic range.
So you're not losing.
Right.
It's not like with pixels where you enlarge it or shrink it or whatever it is.
Exactly. I mean, there's still a certain amount before it starts to kind of like blur, but
yeah.
But yeah, it's not like digital where you're like you're limited to you've got 12 megapixels. So if you blow it up to 4 feet by 3 feet, then you're probably at your maximum. Or if you have like some of the new cameras have 60 megapixels where you're like, that's just a normal. It's not even like a medium format anymore. It's just like a normal camera that you can buy where it's like
really.
Yeah, I mean you can take a landscape and you can zoom in.
Remember when our cameras were like 5 megapixels?
Oh yeah, I have one from I think my high school graduation that my grandparents got me. It's like 3.
I just found one recently. My parents were moving, so there's a bunch of my like high school stuff. I like bedazzled it and everything. It's a 5 megapixel camera, but it still works.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Cool. Some of those point and shoots are really really good too. Like they can actually be pretty good quality.
Does Josh shoot film? You said.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much film he's done. He just said that he's been interested in shooting in it more now.
He has a style. He has a a more toned down style too. Like certain editors, people editing will edit in different ways, and Josh is very film-esque, so I'm not surprised
that he would go that direction
towards that.
Yeah. He like picks shots that are very vibrant and full of life, but don't require like he doesn't overdo it, I guess.
Does he use lighting and stuff?
Yeah, lighting. Yeah, I mean, that's.
I mean, like, does he like have external lights that he uses?
Oh, I don't think so. I think he
not
uses
for
of
most of his stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he does some photo shoots.
Yeah,
where he's done some lighting.
Definitely have to talk to him about it. But
oh yeah, definitely. Yeah,
that's awesome.
I do want to ask you so we already talked about like picking a place. When it comes to composing a shot, what are some things that maybe some tools you use or some things that draw your eye, or whatever you want to talk about in regards to composing a shot?
Really, like, I've been more focused lately. It really kind of depends on what you're shooting. Really, the subject matter is kind of the
portrait,
dictation of that. Yeah. Portrait wise, I think it's just for me, portrait wise, it's just about getting creative and getting comfortable with the person.
Yeah. Finding out
and really finding, like I said, finding new places and finding new ways to do things and like new actions, honestly, to like try out. Like, the more you get to know somebody, the more you can be like, okay, well, if they're an actor, you can have them act out their favorite scene from their most recent play or something like that. You can get that. If they're a painter, you can kind of like get like, brush strokes or something like that. I mean, there's
kind of get them in their element.
Right, exactly. Or even just get them moving, doing something, and just kind of creating. So.
No, definitely. I think when I've recorded with Andy. Before, and one of the things that was striking to me, I keep bringing it back to audio, but that's just, I'm trying to relate them. And when we were recording together, he would just have me do so many takes,
Yeah.
And so we do take after take after take. But I realized along the way, I was like, man, I feel really good now. Like, I feel 100% better than I did when I came in here. Like, now I'm comfortable. Now it's just going to flow out.
Right.
And the same thing is true. Like, if I think I've kind of figured out, like, I love it when photographers just tell me, like, what I should do, And I understand that, like, I do want my personality to come out and, like, I want to be me. But I also, like, I'm down to try stuff. So, like, I don't want to limit myself to things that I know, when I know that there's a photographer who knows a lot more than I do because they've shot with more people than me. So
I think some photographers are really good at, like, helping people find that space. For me, it's hard to like get people.
I think for a lot of people it is hard still.
I think I like it better when I have someone who's a
who
more
knows
experienced
what they want.
model, you know what I mean? Just like knows how to pose, knows what kind of story they're trying to portray, like through their body movements or their face or whatever. I like it. I like that.
You like
working
them to
with
take
them
the control
on that, versus like do this, do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe it's more so that people should just be more educated on modeling if they're going to be doing it. I know.
I mean, if it's something like senior pictures or something like that, like that's a little bit harder. It has to be like more structured.
When I was in Chicago and I was shooting with Chris, I remember she said there was like a YouTube video that I could watch that, like showed you how to model, and I just like looked that up. And so that I think is a great resource.
Yeah.
I think some like maybe preemptively doing some of that stuff for your shoots and when you organize shoots is good.
Yeah.
But I think some of that is, and I've been really trying to focus on some of that stuff lately when I've been doing shoots, because people generally aren't, especially when I shoot with friends or I shoot with people who haven't modeled a lot.
Yeah.
That's part of that comfortability is it's like they're always like, what do I do with my hands? Like what's the best way to pose? And
what do you want me to do?
Right. When you look at photo, like I said, kind of back to earlier a little bit, where you look at photos of Instagram models or just anybody on Instagram, like in a good light or good pose. Sometimes that's natural, sometimes it's not. But like when you first start to take those pictures, you're like, what do I do with my hands? Like, what do I do? You know, like which way do I turn?
And you kind of look awkward. You
right,
wear that awkwardness.
So I mean, I think that as a photographer, it's important to. I think that's an important skill to learn.
Yeah.
I haven't mastered that for sure at all. Like I've had like the last couple of photo shoots. I actually just went to the pumpkin patch last week with a couple of friends who wanted me to shoot photos for them, and I felt like sometimes I was like doing some really creative stuff, and sometimes I was just like really at a block where I was just like, like they would be like, "How do you want me to pose?" And I'm like, "How do you want to pose?" You know, what I mean? Like,
and sometimes it like depends on how long you're shooting for too.
Right. I think you can definitely run out. You hit
fatigue.
Like, you can definitely you can fatigue, and you can also run out of like just like creative things to do in a certain scenario. Like so, if you're we were again at the pumpkin patch, where we just had like a pile of pumpkins that was sitting there, and we're just like taking pictures kind of around that. But it's like that doesn't have to be a focal point, and you know you'd only do so many poses like that happen to be around that patch of pumpkins. So
right.
It's like,
before it's like, okay,
it's like,
we get it.
Let's get something different. You know, like let's move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like once you kind of run out of it, and
I think that is a really important skill to learn. Is like part of that, and I think that's a big portion of that comfortability and trust too. Is like
absolutely
making sure that your models know it doesn't have to be like this like Vogue thing, but at the same time, like you can be comfortable, like just doing some normal actions or finding like kind of bouncing ideas off each other, just finding different things that make them comfortable that aren't maybe like the norm or that aren't.
That's back to like maybe like shutting down those expectations people have, you know, like just kind of chill. But it's hard to get people in that headspace. Sometimes people get a little nervous or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's nice like to be able to learn how to direct people into that space.
True. Mm-hmm. I think also like when you're confident, you kind of wear that outwardly a little bit, you know, like when you're talking about Instagram models and stuff like that, people who are getting paid lots of money for sponsorships or whatever, in a lot of cases, I just think those people are on their shit, you know, and they know it. And so outwardly they look great to us because we're like, wow, like they're really on it and they're super confident. And you can tell like they know that they're doing what they're supposed to do or whatever.
Well, and modeling, just like anything else, especially models that are like have a fairly large following for the most part, if they're just models, or or if modeling is one of their fortes, it's something they've done a lot. There's a practice element to that. Having shot with a lot of different photographers, you will get the experience of like, okay, well this person had me do this person had me do this, and I can really kind of like get in my own groove if my photographer doesn't give me direction, or we can bounce things off of each other. Yeah, you just use ideas. So like I've had photo shoots where I've been with people that model a lot, and they're just like, they'll just go to town. They'll just like start posing, and
it's that collaboration.
Right. And they'll start like, they'll ask me like what I want them to do, but they'll also like kind of go, so again, it's a collaboration between a photographer and model there. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's like unspoken. Sometimes it's like the photographer has to do a little more to get the model like comfortable. Exactly. Sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes the photographer might be fairly new. Like I've had photo shoots where I'm new, but the models share the experience, and like I said, they just kind of go to town and do their own thing, and I'm like, I don't really have to say anything, but like we're producing some really cool stuff.
That's dope though.
Yeah,
I mean, it's got to be nice to work with those people though, because it's like you don't have to really drive as much, and
I wouldn't say it's nicer.
Yeah,
but it was. I mean, it's
different.
It's a different type of flow. I mean, for sure. It's fun and it's engaging to I wouldn't say engaging to, but it's fun to engage that portion of others. You know, people that aren't models, it's fun to engage like their like comfortability and get them out of their shell.
You did mention that was like one of the things you really like about it too.
Right.
So
I think that's that and like just making people realize that like there's more to just like being pretty, or than just like having
there's
straight
more to
hair,
life.
having you know, the best makeup, or having
all that stuff is so much upkeep
being
too.
skinny, you know, like it just doesn't. It's not one thing. Like there's a lot that goes into a good photo or a good modeling shoot or a good.
Well, it's almost like these people think that these models, like at the end of the day, go and like live a life like they do. Like they have very different lives, you know.
Oh yeah.
Ultimately,
if you're
their life
the
is
time,
centered around them, like working and doing that, and so. Of course, they're gonna look freaking beautiful in a photo because that's literally their whole identity.
Yeah, I have a friend who makes money doing that. Like she's a model professionally, and she's like bought a house off her modeling. Like that's her career.
Wow, yeah.
And like one of my other friends was actually comparing herself. At one point, she was like, "I'm not that beautiful. I would never be that beautiful." I'm like, "You totally are."
Yeah.
In your own way, but like, this person is basing her look and her body off of what others want to see as like a tradition, like a traditional
ideal
so she would like do a lot of makeup and do different like styles of makeup on every shoot, but she would get her hair done constantly. And she'll work out 3 hours a day. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lifestyle.
It's kind of funny, though. Sometimes I, like, be, like, shopping, and then I see someone, and I'm like, oh, my God, like, I would love to take their picture. And they'll be, like, you know, no makeup, just, like, scrubby looking at work, you know? And I'm like, no, like, they just have, like, a look to them. And, you know, you just kind of see, like, a light in people.
Heck, sometimes you just want to take pictures of homeless people.
That's one of the coolest things.
They look cool.
That's one of the coolest things about street photography. Or, like, again, it's about telling a story, honestly. Or, like, trying to tell a story with a photo. Or trying to capture the essence of the moment with a photo. Yeah. Which, I mean, I guess what a photography is. But, like, really, really trying to stylize, but also capture the idea of what's going on or tell the story that you want to tell about what's going on. So it doesn't have to be with street photography, it doesn't have to be like this person's got makeup on, you know. And some of the times when like let's say an ambulance stops and at a crash and there's a paramedic who's got like just hands in his face as he like just watch somebody lose their life or something like that. You know, seeing some of those pictures of that paramedic with his hands in his face and like blood on him. Like that's a telling story. That's like that's a moment in and of itself.
So there's one that's going to be more structured, right? And there's the other one that's like more natural and more, you know? So it's like both are interesting, both are going to show and make someone feel an emotion, you know, at the end of the day. It's just a different, you work harder for one of them, the other one just kind of just happens. Yeah. You know?
Right.
No, absolutely.
It's kind of like musical versus a drama. Like there's just a lot, you know, there's different ways to stylize things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
definitely.
Fun and beautiful.
And with photography, I've just done a tiny bit of sports photography for my dad and my sister since she runs cross country. And my dad was mentioning to me how like the kids really like the photos of them like hanging out with their teammates, you know? Like when they give each other a hug or something, or like a high five, or they're like in a group huddle. They don't like really care about the ones where they're running. Like, you know, even though like some of those turn out really cool, you know, like they'll be like, doing an action, but like they like the connectiveness with other people. And like, I think of myself when I look at a picture where people are, you can just see the spark in their eyes, and maybe they're not even looking at the camera. Like, in fact, it's almost better when they're not. And you just capture that moment of like pure joy.
There's something about capturing intimacy that just is like it's heartwarming.
It is. Because it's like, you know, the person doesn't know, you know, that a picture has been taken of that moment, and there's something so special about the fact that they don't know, and that it's like somebody was like, oh, that is cool, that's good. Right. I need to capture that.
And it was authentic because they weren't posing.
Yeah,
but exactly. At the same time, it's like...
You know. But at the same time, posing is great as well. And there is something beautiful about composing a shot and really building, and in some cases, even building sets. But yeah, so we could talk about that a little bit. Like, what if what if we did that with D&D?
Oh, we could
That'd
do
be
that.
cool.
That would be really cool.
We could
Yeah.
make up our
We could
characters.
collab on a photo shoot
Yeah.
and do like.
So we were talking about D&D as well because Shep does D&D. I've done D&D. Myra's never done D&D. So we were talking about maybe doing an episode. But yeah, we could talk about D&D a little bit.
Yeah. No, we should. But yeah, I think it'd be really cool to see you guys do
Right?
like it'd be
really fun.
And
I would have to be like
you could even dress up as your characters and shoot them.
That would be
Exactly.
really
Do a
cool.
little photo shoot. I'd be like an elven archer probably. That's just I'm always like the ranger type person.
I'm pretty sure I could find people like. I mean, I could just put it out there in social media, like who plays D&D, and like people will be like, "What's up?" You know, and like just collaborate with these people, and like
hell yeah,
that would be fun.
it's
That
a
would be
really
lot of fun.
and it is a really fun experience. How regularly do you play?
Every Monday.
Okay,
If I'm in town.
Hell yeah,
every Monday when I'm not in town, depending on the hotel, I try to the internet at the hotel. I try to
Oh, nice.
like Skype in.
Yeah.
With my,
that's really cool.
Hell yeah. Is it at night on Mondays?
What's that?
Is it at night on Mondays?
Yeah. They usually get off work at about 7:00, so we start about 7:30, 8:00.
There you go. How many people are in it?
7 right now.
Okay.
We have an 8 that kind of bounces.
How do you know all of them?
A couple of them through each other, I think. Honestly, I met one of them. I met the DM actually at just a nerd convention, NebraskaCon.
Oh yeah, NebraskaCon.
Yeah.
I have friends that help run that.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's kind of one of the cool things about nerd societies. Like just really nerd society is just like really open.
Yeah.
I feel like
Very-
they're pretty
it is.
strong too. You know what I mean? Like they like, get stuff done. Like
Oh, yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I met one of the guys at NebraskaCon a while back, and we talked about doing D&D. He invited me to a campaign 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh wow.
And it was like my first or second campaign. I think it was my second campaign.
Mm-hmm. I've never
but
finished a campaign.
I made a bunch of friends there. Like one of my best friends now, I met at that campaign, and we're still in this Monday night campaign together.
Nice. That's crazy.
But yeah. So we're some of my good friends I've met through D&D, I guess.
Yeah. That's awesome. Just like and like D&D is perfect to talk about too because it is such a creative thing. Like you really have to be creative, not only like to make your character or whatever, but like when things happen, like you have to be creative of like, well, how do I solve this problem?
It kind of gets you thinking outside of the box. It gets you thinking outside of the box in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because it gets you thinking sort of like, what are other ways to approach a situation?
Yeah.
But it also gets you thinking like from theoretically an alternate perspective.
Well, thank you so much for hopping on, Shep. We really appreciate you having
Yeah.
us here in your space.
It's
in your
awesome
creative
being able to
space.
shoot here. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely, man.
It's been wonderful talking.
We look forward to, seeing more of your work. We'll drop your handle
Yeah.
so people can
Because you're on
follow you.
Instagram.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram right now. I'm probably redoing that pretty soon, and then I'll drop a website here probably the next 6 months or so.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's
Yeah, I want to get around to that.
Awesome.
It's a little slow season outside of work, so hopefully I can have time to.
And
Get
real
that all
quick
finished up.
before we go, are you open to collaborations and like, are you open to people like hitting
Great
your
question.
DMs for
Oh
that?
yeah, 100%.
Awesome.
Yeah, hit me up anytime.
Sweet. Yeah, there's a lot of great
Yeah.
local people that we know we want to work with. And,
Mm-hmm.
even if they don't want to work with us, but they want to work with somebody that we know, hit us up too if you ever want to work with any of these people. But
At this point, I'd love to make creativity like my livelihood at some point. But at this point, the cool thing about being creative is like my creativity is just my creative time is like not my career at this point.
Yeah.
So it makes it a little more genuine when I do
Yeah.
collaborations. It's not like a requirement that I'm
Yeah.
making money or doing anything. So it's kind
Ooh,
of fun.
yeah.
To
Yeah.
just like
you're
really
there
just-
because you want to.
I'm there because I want to be. I mean,
That's awesome.
yeah. So it's just fun to collaborate and just do things with other people and get that fresh perspective. So
Hell yeah.
Sounds good.
Dope.
Thank you.
All right. Well, peace out.
thanks, guys.